Welcome back to another entry in my vlog. Sorry for my voice, I've been sick, and that's also what I've been mostly doing, being sick. Otherwise, I've been performance tuning and optimizing, and one thing I found out is that web GPU is still very much unoptimized within Firefox. If we look at this, Firefox here is on 18 FPS, whereas Chrome's chugging away at 60 without any issues. And that was already the case before performance optimization. And it seems like in Firefox there is a penalty on the canvas size. I don't know why, and frankly, I don't care. I'm just gonna slap a label, it's not properly supported in Firefox on it. And that is that, because sooner or later they'll probably properly support it and that problem will go away on its own. As for performance optimizations, there's now the ability to bake things. So I've restructured how my scene rendering works. For a short time, I was rendering based on divs in the scenes. I stopped doing that again because I chose to use baking instead. If we're looking at the tile map, for example, then we can see that it is now divided into chunks, and the chunk has a reference to a texture. It knows if it's dirty or not, and what its last state was. So anytime a chunk is on screen, it'll check if it changed from the last frame. And if it did, it will re-render that chunk into this texture here. And then instead of rendering each tile individually as an image, we just render chunks and up to 4 well, however many chunks fit on screen. Typically that's going to be up to 4, because you would choose a relatively large chunk size, but you want it to be small enough that rendering into a chunk is sufficient enough, but you don't want too many chunks, because otherwise you have the exact same problem you had as when you rendered the individual tiles. Actually, even worse, because you would be switching textures all the time, so you want them to be large. In my case, for the editor, there are 128 tiles large, which is full screen resolution in my case. And also 4096 by 4096 is about the largest tile map texture you can assume is supported from my research. It's obviously possible to pick a smaller size, but larger it might become a problem with different backends. And before optimization with the chunks, a baking, if you paint it in between different textures and you added layers, or let's say for each layer that you added, you incurred a penalty. And now we are at a stable 60, even as we add more layers and even as we're painting into them, which is a huge performance win. And another benefit of this is that in-game, when we're actually going to use this, we're going to potentially want to animate certain layers. So we don't want to re-render the entire or rebake the entire tile map, just a specific layer, probably the top layer. Or another thing is, if you're thinking about Stardew Valley, you can modify the map, like the trees grow, and you can till the dirt, etc. Place paths and so on. It could be obviously solved with different tile maps layered on top of each other. That's also possible. And probably also what I'm gonna do to some degree. But animations like water animations are probably going to be in the tile map itself. I don't know how I want to do animations yet at all. Also in the editor, it's possible that instead of loading a single tile set, you would load an animated tile set, which would consist of one texture with multiple tile sets. So then instead of, when you load it, instead of just choosing the tile width and tile height, for an animated, you'd also choose the animation frames. Potentially how long an animation frame is, or maybe that should be controlled by whoever uses it. And but at certainly how many animations frames there are. So you would then get this multiple times, and you would need to choose a direction, left or right, and just say they have to be left or right, horizontal or vertical, and they have to be that in that area. And then you would still paint it with these, but it would be specified in the tile map specification that it is an animation. And where at render time, you would then go through these and swap the tile location. That would also require rebaking of chunks. Reason I'm baking in chunks is because if the tile map is large and you bake the entire layer, any change, and the larger the tile map, especially under animation, the more changes you're gonna have. So you're going to have to rebake the entire large tile map every single time. Also, just to determine if there is a difference in the tile map, you would also have to compare the entire matrix, which is also quite a lot of work. Anyway, that was it from me. Well, yeah, and I think I'm far enough to start working on an actual game. And like I said, I'm probably going to go towards something like Stardew Valley, maybe something like Pokemon. I know I keep changing my mind, but it doesn't matter. See you around.